The events of 9/11 have changed the face of immigration reform. Americans are looking more and more inwards in protecting its homeland from possible threats. And with 8 million illegal workers in our country, having them step forward has become a priority of the Bush administration. President Bush has proposed a guest worker program that would allow undocumented workers to work in this country for up to 3 years with the possibility of an extension before they would have to leave. The benefits for these workers is that they would have the same protection as a U.S. citizen. They would be able to travel freely back and forth from their home country.
Be able to talk openly to authorities, to report crimes when they're harmed, without the fear of being deported.
But is this program anything new? For the second time since 1917, on August 4th, 1942, the governments of the U.S. and Mexico signed a treaty for the recruitment and employment of Mexican citizens to alleviate the shortage of manual labor in the agricultural fields and to help maintain American railways. More than 350,000 braceros marched across the Mexican-U.S. border each year to help plant, cultivate, and harvest agricultural crops. Braceros contracted with independent farmers who signed English contracts which the braceros would not understand. Braceros would be forced back to Mexico at the end of their contracts, much like what President Bush is proposing in his new guest worker program.
About the Bracero program. The Bracero program worked well for a long time. People came to the United States for jobs. It was almost entirely, of course, in agriculture. Liberals in the United States began to complain that these people could not bring family up here with them. And that it was therefore a relatively inhumane program because people could not bring family. That's one of the biggest reasons why it ended up being stopped.
President Bush immigration law will allow workers from Mexico to be paired with American employers who cannot find American workers to fill those positions. Illegal workers would have 12 months to apply for the program. Those accepted would be given a blue card allowing them to travel outside the U.S. Employers would deposit money drawn from the workers' wages that would be held in the Treasury and would be refunded to the worker when the worker returns home. This would be in lieu of paying Social Security and Medicare. Though illegal workers will be given a 3-year reprieve and possibly longer, President Bush still maintains that his guest workers program is not amnesty for illegal workers.
Placing undocumented workers on the automatic path to citizenship. Granting amnesty encourages the violation of our laws and perpetuates illegal immigration.
But Congressman Tancredo sees it as amnesty in disguise.
And that is this, that all of them say that we have to give amnesty to the people who are here illegally today and put them into the guest worker program. Well, I think that's a terrible idea. The idea of rewarding people for breaking the law is a bad idea always. I don't care what the motive is. We should never reward people for breaking the law. They've come into the country illegally.
But is amnesty such a bad thing, especially for those who have been contributing to our society but without legal status?
But there's sometimes that there comes a time when the amnesty is the solution. And I'll say that at this time, at this very point of the situation, we need some kind of amnesty. I don't think they're gonna approve an amnesty for all the people, but maybe for the ones that have been like 5-10 years, stuff like that.
Do you believe in amnesty for illegal immigrants, and could you explain?
I don't believe in amnesty because amnesty to me is you just wave a wand and everybody's forgiven for breaking the law. I do believe, though, you could put a system in place where people could earn their status here, whether it's green card status or eventually become a naturalized citizen. There are people who are here or who are waiting in line in other countries to come to this country, and so to put in place a blanket amnesty for everybody that's here, I think that would be a mistake. It would send the wrong message. I think there is a way to say to people, you can work towards a legal status if you pass this certain set of tests, if you will. They're not a test sitting down at a table and writing something out, although one of the tests might be a demonstration of your knowledge of our Constitution and our form of government and your civic responsibilities.
In fact, in a show of bipartisanship, Senators Chuck Hagel and Tom Daschle have proposed just this type of legislation. They propose that illegal immigrants should be given a chance to gain citizenship if they can pass a background check, reside in U.S. for 5 years, have worked 4 years in U.S., knowledge of English and American civics, and pay a $1,000 fine and application fees. The difference between Hagel and Daschle's proposal and Bush's proposal is that Hagel and Daschle give a realistic process of becoming a citizen, whereas Bush offers only temporary work. The U.S. will have no problem in absorbing the current illegal immigrants, but what of the immigrants waiting to cross the border? What is the Mexican government doing to stop the flow of illegals?
The government of Mexico actually provides bus transportation to the border for people who are trying to come in illegally. I've talked with another Juan Hernandez, not the same one that Jimmy was talking about, another one who was the newly appointed minister of a newly created ministry in the government of Vicente Fox. When I was asking him, what is the purpose of such a ministry? I've never heard of another government having a thing like this. And he said, well, essentially it is to increase the flow. Increase the flow. And he wasn't talking about just legal immigration from Mexico.
Mr. Juan Hernandez is no longer an officer of Mexico. In fact, his office is no longer existing. The foreign policy is taken care by the foreign ministry, foreign affairs ministry, and the immigration policy is taken care by the Secretary of the Interior of Mexico. The statements sound like the office of Juan Hernandez was created to push the people to come here, and it's not that true. The office of Juan Hernandez was created by President Fox at the beginning of his term to create a policy on our migrants in the United States and Canada.
Get this. It's now about $18 billion a year sent home to Mexico, and it comprises some 30% of their gross domestic product.
When in fact it has been 20 years since Mexico has established free market reform that would move it into the 21st century. NAFTA, considered to be the centerpiece of this reform, has generated $250 billion, so why are more Mexicans crossing the border in record numbers? Economic revitalization has done little to close the gap between the rich and poor, and has left what little middle class there is even worse off than before. Engineers, teachers, nurses, small business, all those one would consider to make up the middle class have suffered from recession and the falling peso value, and are actually under the poverty line. According to a recent report, most Mexicans live off of $4 a day on average. 10% of Mexicans at the top of the income pyramid control 40% of the nation's wealth, while the other half struggle in poverty. If Congressman Tancredo is right about how much money leaves the U.S. each year to Mexico, then it can be seen that Mexico does have a vital active middle class of people. The problem is that they live in the U.S. So does America need another Braceros program that doesn't guarantee citizenship but may create another citizenry?
La samba se pasea por la batea.